Hey, it's your girl Chi Collins here for today's edition of Around the NFL. I know that I have not been in front of the camera probably for the last, 3 weeks, and many of you have been wondering if the Ladies' Cave has fallen off the radar. Well, shame on you, because you should know better. The Ladies' Cave has been extremely busy with working on two very big projects. The first one was putting together an NFL dictionary, which was just completed. It was sent off for editing purposes, and I hope to get that uploaded to the website, I would say within the next week. It'll be ready to go, and I'm so excited about it because from the feedback that I have received from it, number one, it's something that has never been done before. Secondly, there's terms in there that many of us who love the sport of football and have watched it for so long, we actually forget the clear-cut definition of some of these terms, in terms that we didn't even really knew existed. So I'm excited about this dictionary. I think it will certainly give all of the Ladies' Cave fans who have joined us an opportunity to be as well versed and educated about the game as possible, as we are just about, I believe it's 82 days now away from the start of the 2016 NFL season. The other thing that we've been working on, which equally shares in excitement, is the Ladies' Cave app. That's right. We will be coming to an Android or iPhone near you in the next, I would say, 2 weeks. Certainly a dream of mine to have that put together so that you will have access to the Ladies' Cave at a moment's notice on your smartphone via our app. And I'm so excited about that because it allows me to upload important content, I should say. So the dictionary will be uploaded on there. All of your team's regular season schedules will be uploaded, and so with just a click, you are right there sharing in the experience of the Ladies' Cave, and of course the sport that we all love, football. So without further ado, and I know a lot has been going on in these last 3 weeks, but there are three things I really want to touch on today as we enter into mini camp, which is now mandatory. Most camps are 3 days, so they started, many started Tuesday, some started Monday, just kind of depends on the team's schedule. So I want to bring you up to date on some happenings that are going on to make sure that you have all the information you need. Well, yesterday it was reported that Dallas Cowboys running back Darren McFadden will be out for at least 2 months due to a broken bone in his elbow, not sustained from anything on the field, but certainly off field. Now, normally, I wouldn't put much stock into it. The Cowboys right now are sitting comfortably with 4 running backs, so it is a very hefty position for them in terms of bodies. You have Ezekiel Elliott, who was just drafted in the first round. You also have the return of Lance Dunbar and the newcomer, I should say, Alfred Morris, which we acquired, or the Cowboys acquired, I should say, in the offseason during free agency from the Washington Redskins. And so I'm not so much concerned about Darren McFadden. What I am concerned about, and many of us who have followed Darren McFadden, not only with the Cowboys, but in his many years with the Oakland Raiders, he is injury prone. If you touch him, he will break. If wind blows just a little too fast, he will fall down and injure himself. Well, in this instance, Darren McFadden decided that he couldn't afford to drop his brand new iPhone and decided to dive to catch it from falling or hitting the floor, and subsequently broke a bone in his elbow. Now, I think I laughed a lot yesterday when I heard this, because how many times have you sat there and dropped your phone? I mean, I live in a house with very little carpet, and so my phone is always falling on the floor. I do have a protective screen on my phone that prevents the cracking of the actual phone screen, which has certainly been very helpful in a house in which you have a lot of tile and laminates, and maybe even hardwood floors. But come on, Darren McFadden. I mean, it's not as if you're hurting financially in which that phone could not be replaced. And in this day and age, if you are carrying a cell phone that does not have insurance, you're crazy. So Darren McFadden, come on, man. I don't know. I don't know the value we put on these phones. I know that they're extremely important to us. I know that we use it for everything, whether it's for news stories, social media apps, playing games, obviously using it for a phone, text messaging, whatever it is that you are, using your phone for. It's certainly a mainstay. I mean, hell, I don't leave the house if I don't have my phone. I may not have much else, but if that phone isn't with me, we have a problem, and I need to make a U-turn and pull back up to the house and grab my phone. So I do understand the value of cell phones these days, but from the standpoint of injuring yourself to save your phone, knowing that you need that arm to hold a ball when the season gets here. And more importantly, Darren McFadden, you're in a precarious situation with the Dallas Cowboys. You will be entering your last year in terms of contracts, and you got a stud of a running back who was just drafted. Not to mention Alfred Morris, in which Cowboy fans are looking for big things to come from him, and then the return of Lance Dunbar. And so Cowboys aren't really going to miss you too much. We certainly wish that we had you because you are a veteran, and you have lent a lot of yards and leadership to the sport. But you know what? Next man up. That's how this game goes. That's how this league is. When you aren't available and ready to perform, there's always somebody willing to take your place. So I certainly wish you well, Darren McFadden. I hope that that your surgery, because this was a surgery, surgery was needed for this injury. This wasn't something that you can just rest and put ice on and rehabilitate. You had to have surgery. And so right now the Cowboys are estimating about 2 months being off the field. Of course, right now, what you're hearing when players are getting hurt, there's a lot of talk about players coming back before training camp, or they'll be here before preseason. You just can't rush injuries, no matter what the injury is, no matter how minor or major. You must take your time in healing. So we do certainly wish Darren McFadden all the best on his road to recovery, but I think we could probably all learn a lesson here with his situation. So let's get into contracts. Oh gosh, there's a lot of money dealt out this week, but I want to first talk about the situation with Joey Bosa. Joey Bosa, as you know, was drafted as the 5th overall pick in the draft by the San Diego Chargers. Certainly a powerhouse needed for their defensive line, but he is holding out. Their 3-day mandatory minicamp kicked off yesterday, and he sat out, and he has been adamant, and his agent has been adamant as to the reasons why. Well, I want to give you some expanded knowledge, because I believe knowledge is power. And at the Ladies Cave, we want to make sure that you are as fully informed as possible. We leave no stone unturned with making sure that you have knowledge that you can use. So there's been talk, and what's interesting about Joey Bosa is that it's not about a dollar amount. So many players will hold out on contracts for dollar amounts. Joey Bosa's contractual terms are more about the wording in the contract that is prohibiting him and his agent from moving forward. So I want to go into this with you because there's a terminology that is being used called offset language. Offset language. And if you're not familiar with contracts, you wouldn't really know what offset language is. So let me go into that now. Under the 2011 collective bargaining agreement, which is still effective now until 2020, and so if you're interested in reading the collective bargaining agreement, it is uploaded to the Ladies Cave website, which is theladiescave.net. Under that collective bargaining agreement, players drafted have few issues about which they can negotiate. Their hands are really tied, especially for the first 4 years, and some contracts have gone 5th-year option. For players taken at the top of the draft. So when you say the top of the draft, you're looking at really the top 10 players that are taken. So draft picks 1 through 10. The biggest sticking point that has been or that comes out of this is the connection with the issue of offset language. It's a simple concept. The contracts at the top of the draft are fully guaranteed. That is a part of the collective bargaining agreement. Teams cannot waive that. They can't alter that. That is just something that the league agreed upon with the union. So it's fully guaranteed. But with offset language, a team, in this case the Chargers, that could, for whatever reason we don't know, and certainly not something to consider or think about right now, but this language is important. A team that cuts a player at the top of the draft within the first 4 years of his contract currently receive a dollar-for-dollar credit if and when that player lands with a new team. With no offset language in the contract, the player basically gets to double dip. So they get whatever money was guaranteed from the original team that contracted with them, the drafting team, and then they also get the money that they're going to make elsewhere. So they call it double dipping. It's called offset language. But just so you know, because this is a unique situation, because as I said, oftentimes in contracts the sticking point is a dollar amount. It could be a couple $1,000,000, whether it's guaranteed or base salary, whatever that looks like. But in this case, he wants to be able to know that he is going to be able to keep his money when he moves on to a new contract with another team, if that scenario should present itself. It'll be interesting to see how this unfolds, because as we have seen, and we're getting ready to get into the Fletcher Cox contract with the Philadelphia Eagles, but as we have seen, a lot of these contractual situations are now kind of becoming the threshold for other players to use in their negotiations, either for contract extensions or new contracts. And so this one is going to be interesting to watch. I think I'm definitely more interested in this than any other outstanding contract that is out there, because this one will change the terminology of a collective bargaining agreement that is to be in place until 2020. And what's going to be more interesting is, are you going to find more rookies in subsequent drafts, meaning 2017 or 2018 drafts and down the road, also pushing for this offset language. So let's go ahead and stay with contracts, and let's get into Fletcher Cox of the Philadelphia Eagles. It was announced that he has agreed to a 6-year, $103 million contract extension of and this is unprecedented for a non-quarterback, or a player that is not a quarterback. And so now that you have, and let me just break this down for you. So it is $103 million with $63 million in total guarantees. Total guarantees. Now, Fletcher Cox, this is a 6-year extension. He was entering his last year of his contract with the Eagles this 2016 season, and certainly wanted to get this deal done before the season began, which, really plays to the favor of the player as opposed to playing to the favor of the team. Because once you get that money, and with him, he's got a hefty bank of $63 million guaranteed, doesn't matter what happens to you this season. Doesn't matter how you perform. Doesn't matter if you get injured. You're still going to make your money. What's interesting about this contract, more importantly, is that Fletcher Cox, albeit a great defensive lineman, and I think has proven himself to be one of the league's great. I'm going to say I don't believe that he is worth $103 million over 6 years and $63 million in guarantees. But I'll run down his stats for you from 2015 in case you're not familiar, because Fletcher Cox is not that household name. He's not that J.J. Watt. He's not that Dominic and Sue. His name isn't splashed upon sports reports during the football season. You just don't really hear a lot about him. But his stats are such as this: 71 tackles, 9.5 or 9.5 sacks, and then 3 forced fumbles in 2015 alone. And so, yes, you look at those numbers and you certainly say, hey, he's a phenomenal defensive lineman. I won't take that away. But I have to say, and I have to stress this, I just don't know that he has, number one, done enough consistently to put this kind of money on the table. While 2015 was a great year for him, and I certainly won't try to take that away from him or diminish it in any way, I just don't know that this amount of money will continue to get the Philadelphia Eagles this same level, if not greater, level of play than what they saw from Fletcher Cox in 2015. It'll be very interesting. The Philadelphia Eagles, unfortunately, have a long-standing history of overpaying players, putting too much money out on the table and not getting enough in return. I think that's quite evident by saying that Philadelphia has never won a Super Bowl. And I know it hurts, Philadelphia. I know I lived it and I breathed it with you guys for almost all of my life, but you know, it's true. When you go back in the history books, Philadelphia Eagles just haven't been able to produce equivalent to the amount of money that they put out on the table. And honestly, that also holds true when you look at Hall of Famers. Also looks true. So if you don't believe what I'm saying, I want you to go to the NFL Hall of Fame's website, and you can do your digging for yourself. Yes, you certainly had Reggie White, who was phenomenal in his own right. Fletcher Cox does not come anywhere near the magnitude of Reggie White. But Reggie White was not inducted into the Hall of Fame as a Philadelphia Eagle. He was inducted as a Green Bay Packer. So, once again, just some things to look into as we hear about contracts. Certainly waiting to see what's going to happen in Denver with the Von Miller contract. He basically said no to their first offer, and so this Fletcher Cox situation is going to make it a little bit more interesting, and probably a very sticky situation in Denver as they try to iron out Von Miller's contract. So there you have it for today's edition of Around the NFL. Of course, as always, I'm your girl, Chi Collins. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to continue to follow us on Twitter at _Ladies Cave, on our website, theladiescave.net, and of course on Facebook, facebook.com/theladiescave. Continue to spread the word, and I will be sure to keep you all posted on the launch of the dictionary that we have put together, as well as the long waiting, I should say, and anticipating of the Ladies Cave app. Until next time, thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you for your support.